Welcome. I'm Sue Gibbons, the leader of the advocacy efforts for our Congo mission team. And one of the main objectives that we have is to advocate for actions and legislation that will help the people of the DRC, the Congo, achieve basic rights that are due all people everywhere. And recently, the PCUSA, that's our national church, of course, has issued an action alert regarding the support of funding for 2 brand new vaccines to fight malaria in Africa. It's very exciting. And as you know, LOPC's mission program, we support both the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Zimbabwe. So our goal this morning is that you will leave here better informed about the issue. You'll leave here better informed about action alerts through our church, and you'll leave better informed in how you can participate if you so choose to do so. And we just like to emphasize that it isn't asking for a monetary contribution. So this is for support with your voice. Our Congo team will give brief presentations just to give you some background, the impact of malaria, how malaria is transmitted, development of the new vaccines, distribution through Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, and then the all-important funding, and there are Gavi resolutions in Congress. We'll look at the Action Alert website and letter, and then to close, we have a 10-minute interview with 2 of our national staff from the Office of Public Witness and from the liaison in Africa. So we'll close with that 10-minute video, though our team will remain afterwards to help you. If you would like to take action before you leave, it will be possible. So I will talk briefly about the impact of malaria. Malaria claims 600,000 lives each year, and 95% of those deaths occur in Africa. And as has been mentioned, 4 out of 5 deaths are children under 5. Here we have a graph of the estimated deaths due to malaria in the World Health Organization Africa region over 20 years. And you can see that Nigeria has the largest number. Though second is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and they account for more than 12% of the deaths from malaria in the world. You'll also see that there has been a downward trend, and then now it's starting to rise again. So part of this is due the parasites, which we'll talk about shortly, have become resistant to the drugs used for malaria. The mosquitoes have become hardier, and so the chemicals are not as effective on the mosquito netting. And then there have been, I'm sure you have heard, many devastating floods, mainly due to climate change. And these floods and more water are another factor in the rise of malaria cases. Then besides the scope of malaria, we just wanted to touch that there's an economic impact. For a family living in the Congo, if one of your family members comes down with malaria, it can cost between $25 to $100, depending on how severe the case is. Now we might think, okay, that's manageable, not great, but we have to recognize that in low-income countries, the daily wage of most people is $1.50 a day. So then $25 to $100 is a huge amount of money. And there's also an economic impact on the society. So there was a recent study done that if we could reduce malaria by 90% by the year 2030, that the GDP in sub-Saharan African countries with high malaria burden would actually increase by up to $16 billion a year. Besides the economic impact, there's the social impact. And we do not act for any advocacy until we have had a chance to speak with our partners on the ground, so that it comes not just from us, but it's something that those who are right on the ground and experiencing the situation, that they are the ones who are wanting this advocacy. So this is from a doctor that we're in communication with in the Congo, and he wrote, "The vaccines will be warmly welcomed by the population, given the damage that malaria causes in our households," in his congregation. Loss of human life, abortions in pregnant women, school absenteeism, anemia, and poverty. So there's many impacts of malaria, and I'm going to pass this along to Marie, who will tell us a little bit about how malaria is transmitted.
Malaria is a disease caused by a parasite. The parasite is spread to humans through the bites of infected mosquitoes. People who have malaria usually feel very sick with a high fever and shaking chills. While the disease is uncommon in temperate climates, malaria is still common in tropical and subtropical countries. In the year 2002, nearly 240 million people were infected with malaria, and more than 608,000 people died of the disease. That's 1 year. To reduce malaria infections, World Health Programs distribute preventive drugs and insecticide-treated bed nets to protect people from mosquito bites. The World Health Organization has recommended a malaria vaccine for use in children under 5 to prevent malaria, because most deaths are to children. Malaria spreads when a mosquito becomes infected with the disease after biting an infected person, and the infected mosquito then bites a non-infected person. The malaria parasites enter that person's bloodstream and travels to the liver. When the parasites mature, they leave the liver and infect red blood cells. If an uninfected mosquito bites you at this point in the cycle, the mosquito will become infected with your malaria parasites and can spread the disease. There are severe complications from having malaria: seizures and coma, breathing problems, organ failure, anemia, low blood sugar. Some varieties of the malaria parasite, which typically cause milder forms of the disease, can persist for years and cause relapses.
Norman will tell us about these amazing...
Okay, I'm Norman Fitzsimmons. I'm part of the Congo team. Malaria vaccines have been in development for over 60 years. But recently we've had 2 recommended by the World Health Organization. The main obstacle has been targeting a parasite, as you've heard, which has a complex life cycle. Both of these vaccines target the first form of the parasite entering the human body to control the infection. These are a prevention vaccines, not a cure, but they are now targeted at children, where, as you've learned, the great majority of infections result in serious illness and death. First, we had the GlaxoSmithKline RTS vaccine, funded in part by the Gates Foundation, which was approved in October 2021, following a pilot with 800,000 children. Now, 3 doses are required between 6 weeks and 17 months, and a further dose after 1 year in high-risk areas. Secondly, the Oxford University in the UK has an R21 vaccine, which has been approved in December 2022, funded in part by the Jenner Institute. It, in fact, is the first vaccine to meet the World Health Organization goal of 75% efficiency. Again, 3 doses and 1 booster after a year in high-risk areas. But let me just finish by saying, neither vaccines confer long life protection, but the development of these continues, and we're very hopeful that this is only phase 1.
Sam, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sue. And my name is Sam Austin. We were actually attracted to this church 6 years ago by an event that the Congo mission team was sponsoring, and joined the church after visiting over last year, and happy to be helping on the Congo mission team. The organization Gavi, let me tell you a little bit about it and connect it to the action alert that Sue mentioned early on. Gavi stands for the Global Alliance for Vaccinations and Immunization. It's a public-private partnership, very innovative, that was formed back in 2000. It involves government structures, so UN organizations like the World Health Organization that Norman mentioned, UNICEF, the United States, United Kingdom, Norway, Canada are some of the largest state actors that are contributors, as well as organizations like GlaxoSmithKline and other pharmaceutical companies that develop the vaccines. So it is an effort to bring together a number of players that together can be a lot more effective at fighting malaria and other diseases than anyone could on their own. Many of the drug companies are not really incented to develop vaccines for countries that can't really pay the same prices we would here in the United States. So having this organization like Gavi guarantees them a market that they will be able to sell these drugs at affordable prices into countries like Congo, as well as 14 other countries in Africa, I think around 50 plus countries around the world. So Gavi has a goal to raise up to $9 billion over the next 5 years. The United States is, again, one of the largest, but not actually the largest contributor. The U.S. most recently made a pledge of $1.5 billion over the next 5 years, and that averages out to about $300 million. Our donations have been stuck for 6 years in a row at $290 million. Dr. Jill Biden announced in the summer of this year that we would be upping the U.S. contribution to $300 million. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which actually was the seed funding for Gavi, they started the organization with a $750 million grant back in 2000, and their average contribution is about $320 million. So a little bit more out of that private foundation than from the U.S. government. Sue mentioned early on an action alert, and I'll let her talk a little bit more about how you can go about signing on to that, adding your voice to ask our Congress to commit more dollars and to commit those dollars in a way that is multi-year funding. Currently, this has to be renewed every year. We make pledges of over 5 years, but those are not binding. So you have to go back to Congress each year, and then Gavi and the vaccine makers, they can't really plan ahead for whether that money is going to be there in the future. So the action alert asks you to request that the government support the objectives of Gavi, which has been a bipartisan support that we've had for 24 years now, and that the Congress consider making multi-year pledges, as we currently do for, you've heard of PEPFAR, which is the President's Emergency Program for AIDS vaccines. The PEPFAR program is funded over multiple years, but almost every other program like this one is funded year to year, which makes it very difficult for Gavi to plan. So that being said, I think Marie's already covered the hundreds of thousands of people that die every year. In Congo alone, the DRC, there were about 26,000 people that died in the last year. Records are available, 2022. And I believe somewhere around 15,000 of that number were children under 5 years old.
I just wanted to clarify that we're going to hand out a paper copy of the letter, but the way to participate in the action alert is online, and the letter is already written there for you. So this is just to let you see what is already written, and you can edit the letter. So if you read the letter and decide you would like to add something to make it more personal, when you go on the website, very easy to edit the letter. And then you just enter your first and last name, your email address, and your street address. And the platform from PCUSA will, when you press the send message, it will direct that to your particular House of Representatives member and your particular senators. So you don't have to know that or look that up. They make it really very, very easy. So if you're familiar and able to use QR codes on that half sheet, that will be another way to get directly to the page so you can take care of it. We want to close. We have a 10-minute video interview that I think will be very, I hope, informative. We talked with two members who are representatives of the PCUSA, the Office of Public Witness, and an individual who's representing us in Africa. So I'm just going to set up the video for 10 minutes, and then we'll be happy to help you if you want to get online or to take questions. The Presbyterian Church USA has sent out an action alert encouraging people to contact their congressional representatives to ask them to support funding of 2 new malaria vaccines. Now, especially in need of these vaccines is Africa, where Lafayette-Orinda Presbyterian Church supports mission work in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Zimbabwe. 95% of the world's malaria-related deaths occur in Africa, and children under 5 account for 4 out of 5 malaria deaths. The vaccines are needed to stem the tide of increasing malaria cases. On this Zoom call are 2 Presbyterian USA representatives involved in bringing attention to the need for funding of these vaccines. We have Catherine Gordon in Washington, D.C., and Doug Tilden in South Africa. Catherine is the representative for international issues with the Office of Public Witness, and Doug Tilden is the regional liaison for Southern Africa under Presbyterian World Mission. So welcome, Catherine and Doug. I'll start with you, Catherine, and wonder if you could just tell us a bit about the Office of Public Witness and how that fits under the Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, so the Office of Public Witness is the public policy advocacy office of the General Assembly, the national governing body of the Presbyterian Church USA. So we are in Washington, and when the General Assembly passes policies on issues of concern in terms of public policy, we are tasked with advocating that. We look at where our members are advocating and asking us to work. Look where our partners are also asking us to work, and we look at what's happening in Congress and will we be able to make a difference. And we develop relationships with members on the Hill. We advocate with the administration, and then we also raise awareness about these issues with Presbyterians. So action alerts like this one that we'll be discussing is one of the ways that we raise awareness and mobilize people. We always say no matter how much work we do here at a national level, it's not going to make as much a difference if Presbyterians aren't also talking to their officials, emailing their members of Congress. So we need both. So we not only do we do action alerts, we also do advocacy training. We do webinars to make people aware of these issues. We have some publications that we send out as well. Our office is faced towards government officials, but we're also faced towards Presbyterians to get them mobilized and to be effective that way. The faith community is always the most effective when it is not only, when it's not just the Presbyterians, but it's the ecumenical Christian community, but also our Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, humanist. There's a large faith community in DC that's also working on these issues.
Oh, thank you. Very helpful, Catherine. I'd like to turn to you, Doug, and ask if you could tell us a little bit more about this particular action alert on the malaria vaccines and, how it came about and its purpose.
Sure, Sue. The Presbyterian Church USA has a number of mission and partnership networks that bring together Presbyterians concerned about particular countries or regions of the world. And Lafayette-Orinda members will know this well because many have been involved, particularly with the Congo mission network for many years. In fact, there are 9 mission networks working with PCUSA's church partners in Africa. During the COVID pandemic, the conveners of the Africa mission networks began to meet regularly together. Initially, the goal was just to provide support and encouragement for one another and for the world mission staff with which they work through prayer and fellowship. But soon we began to consider if there were ways that we could be better partners to our siblings in Africa. The group began to study the importance of advocacy as a form of solidarity. The group eventually decided to identify a particular advocacy ask that would have common resonance for most of the networks. And we reflected on a long list of possibilities. But ultimately, we decided to set up a task team to investigate the feasibility of promoting the new malaria vaccines that had recently been approved by the World Health Organization. Our first task was to consult the number of African partners to see if they felt that vaccines would be accepted as an appropriate response to this deadly disease. And partners expressed overwhelming support for steps to improve access to the malaria vaccines. So as a result, we began to work with the Office of Public Witness to identify a strategic approach that aligned well with other actions being taken in Congress and with the support of civil society groups such as United Beat Malaria and the One Campaign to support the provision of vaccines through Gavi. And Gavi is a public-private vaccine alliance that has vaccinated more than 1 billion children in 78 lower-income countries over the past 2 decades. So the Office of Public Witness helped us to develop the language for the action alert, which was then distributed through its network on the eve of World Communion Sunday on October 6th.
Yes, I think it's so important, Doug, and appreciated you spoke about the way that the task force contacted the partners. I think that's a principle that is important, that we're listening to those people who are dealing and living with the situation, and then wondering and listening with them about how we can support so that we can feel, I think, a lot more confidence in moving ahead to advocate. So, yeah, thank you very much. And then, Catherine, if maybe you could just explain a little bit more. When people go to join this advocacy, they're going to see that it's resolutions, Gavi resolutions. And we'd like to know a little bit more what a resolution is meant to accomplish and its purpose.
So resolutions express the sentiments of Congress about an issue, but do not carry the force of law. They're helpful when praise or condemnation is important. They're often used to raise the visibility of an issue, educate members of the public, express solidarity with a persecuted group. Resolutions are important when you want to get members of Congress on the record as supporting, in terms of supporting malaria vaccines. The real crux of that is getting the funding in the appropriations bills. The money is in the appropriations bill. It has been put to support Gavi, but there are, just given the sort of tenor of conversations lately about vaccines, I think it's very important to shore up the support right now that members of Congress are in support of this funding. So these resolutions express the sentiment of the House and will show that there's a lot of support for the vaccines. You know, if we get a lot of members of Congress on this, co-sponsoring and passing it, a resolution is really helpful in raising awareness with grassroots, asking them to take action, and educating the public. And it also is used to, it's to gauge support within Congress on an issue.
Wonderful. So we will have this opportunity then to show, as people of faith, our support for the funding for these vaccine distributions through Gavi. Thank you. Doug, do you have any closing thought or a statement?
We got to recognize that advocacy is a long-term process. Mm-hmm. It involves education, building alliances, and sort of starting a drumbeat for change. And that's something that starts small sometimes, but begins to grow and build over time as more people come along. So I see this action alert as a first step, and I'm grateful for the hundreds of people who have already written to their members of Congress in support of these resolutions. And I hope that it challenges people to learn more, to work together, and to ensure that we use our talents and energies to inspire others to work for a world marked by hope and by the fullness of life promised in Jesus Christ.
Thank you. I think that's a wonderful way to close. We trust then that this will be something that people who are watching will definitely take action on. So here we have also
the QR code, if you're one who wants to use QR codes. And Connie Whitting in the back has her laptop, and so if you wanted to stop by and she could enter or have you enter information, look at the website, and be able to leave here having already, it's so easy. If you're comfortable with the letter, and just press send message. And then also Norman, where's Norman?
Hiding over here.
Hiding over there, okay. If there's anybody who prefers not to use a computer but still wants to be part of the support, Norman will just take your name, address, email, and on your behalf, he can go on to the Action Alert website for you, and it will go to your representatives and your senators. So we wanted to make sure that people were aware of that too. All right, well, blessings. Have a wonderful holiday coming up. Let's be so grateful for all that we have, and I'm grateful for your responsiveness. Thank you.